There we go.
Hello.
And we're back.
Hold Line podcast.
Here.
Yeah.
Episode 14 with the new and improved So Bad Strange.
I do have that. Jesus Christ.
New and improved. I do have that
So
shirt,
bad
by the way.
after a couple lasagnas.
You have this? Oh, you have this shirt?
I do. I have that exact shirt. Yes. I think I've worn it on the pod too. I'll have to go back and check. But welcome, everybody. I think the audio's working. I can hear you guys. You guys can hear me. It looks like the mic is queuing. I do not have the chat up. That is needed. How about we do that? Here we go.
And just to fill everybody in, So Bad is currently away on vacation in Hawaii, living his best life.
A much needed one.
I mean, he doesn't deserve it. He should be here. Who goes on vacation?
He said he's going to be watching the podcast, so be careful.
During the best season of Dark and Darker we ever had, you go on vacation. After we had like 3 awful seasons, you could have vacated then.
No.
You know what he's doing is he's preparing himself. Okay, so he got 2 good weeks of Dark and Darker where it was really good. Now he's gonna go away, so he's gonna long for the game, and then they're taking a break with this patch week, which we're gonna get into that. And he's gonna come back when they drop the next patch, and he's gonna be on the ground. He took the perfect time to take the vacation.
Yeah.
Right.
Everybody was trying to convince Jay the other day on his stream to get him to go to like Vegas or something or leave his room, and it just wasn't happening.
Never did. Those guys are crazy. They don't understand.
Go ahead. Sorry, man.
No, I said this job is a vacation. It's the best.
Yeah, you guys are the full-time streamers of this game are very fortunate. I'm very envious of you for sure. But yeah, just to kick things off. So this is episode 14, and as mentioned, Josh is on vacation this week. He will be sorely missed, but Odin Cass is back.
I just went to Ken's stream and he has me as fucking So Bad.
Yes. I love it.
That's so good, dude.
So for those of you that tuned in last time we had the pod, which has been a while, it was Sunday after the major patch. So looking at the calendar, that would have been all the way back on the 26th that we last did the pod. So it's been a hot minute, but yeah, Odin was on our last episode, was a fantastic guest, and is back by demand, popular demand, and is guest co-hosting this evening.
It wasn't popular demand. Josh just wasn't available. He's in Hawaii.
So we had no other choice. I mean,
no other choice. Everyone else, and I mean everyone, said no. So I said, "Hey, Scott, what's up?" He's like, "Yeah, all right, I guess you come on this week."
You put the glasses on. I guess we'll do it. Yeah.
Put the glasses on. Walk away from the computer periodically. We'll make it work.
Make sure you make some food.
We had a pretty interesting week of Dark and Darker, at least for me. I'm curious.
Yeah, kick it off. What's going on?
Well, I mean, I kind of want to touch back on quest. I feel like now that we had more time to actually do the quests and like finish some of the chains, and I actually love them for the most part. I mean, I've issued some, but like Tavern Master feels very good. The Collector questline feels very good. The St. Nicholas questline actually feels good too. I think the Goblin, I mean, because I'm biased, I just hate Goblin caves so much. But the Goblin Merchant quests, they need to be worked, I think, a little bit. I think they're way too grindy, especially for the solo player, because Goblin Cave is like a solo map. I think they need to really tune those quests down a little bit or change them or something.
No, I'm still on the ears. I've been procrastinating that one.
I'm
still
trying
to collect ears, man. Brutal.
I'm just hard locked. I mean, I could do it, but it's not worth it. The juice ain't worth the squeeze for me. And I don't even think the rewards for the Goblin Merchant questline are even good. So why would I bother?
I don't even think I've looked at the Goblin Merchant quests.
Yeah. Just
somebody in chat, give us the information on that so that we don't have to go look it up.
That shit.
It doesn't look very good. Or from what
the crafting quest lines, like the tailor, armor, weapons are very much so worth it, but they are grindy. They are very grindy, very hard to do. But I feel like you are adequately rewarded for the grind, like getting those golden armor crafts, the golden leather crafts, the golden weapon crafts. Like you are getting your money's worth putting your time into doing this quest. And after like doing quests for a long time, I've now seen that it is worth the grind, and I like it a lot. How about you guys? How you guys liking questing right now?
Odin, you take it.
All right. I like the quests. I found myself like the other night or a couple nights ago, just I was just grinding quests without really thinking too much about it. I just got on, started playing, was like, I'm gonna go do this, and I like caught myself in the middle of doing the quest. It was like, wow, I actually like went and did something with intent. Didn't care so much about PvE or loot, and just had fun with the game for a little bit, and got really excited when I got some quest rewards. And to have that sort of experience within the Dark and Darker game that we've all been pretty like ingrained into, it's you go into the crypts and you play 3v3 and you fight each other, or you're a fucking casual and get out of my game. It's I'm definitely one of those people too. I really love the 3v3, and I've been like looking for a dedicated hardcore team to just really get in there and grind in. But having these quests is a lot of fun. The rewards are good. But saying all that, I have a couple of gripes with it. I don't like the way that they've structured the quests being kind of locked behind each other. I do wish that all of the quest chains were available right from the start. It's very frustrating that there are certain quests that require you to repeat the same steps. For example, there's a tailor quest and a surgeon quest or an alchemist quest that both want you to kill cockatrice, but it's at different times. And the chances of you having both those quests at the same time are, somewhat low unless you do it really intentionally and you sort of study the quest guide, which I'm sure going into future seasons, people will be a little bit more deliberate about it, but it feels a little restrictive in the sense that I just wish all those quests were available to you and you could just do them as you complete them. And it's not, you have to do that guy's quest before I'll let you do quests for me. It's kind of cool in the like lore, like world building sense. If we're really going to flesh this game out and like have face-to-face interactions with some of these NPCs, I could see it being interesting for some people to get into. Like, you've built a rapport with one of my trusted colleagues, the surgeon, so now I will give you a quest. Other than that, yeah, I gotta agree with Ken. I think they're great, and the more I do them, the more I enjoy them. Just let us turn in 15 leather caps one by one, please. I don't want them on my stash.
Yep. Agreed.
Yeah, the quests are very bare bones, but I think it's a very good starting point.
No doubt. No, I agree with all of that. I'm still grinding through, I think, every single... I don't think I've completed any of the merchants. I'm really close on a couple. I think I'm close with the Tavern Master. I did finally win all the Wisp lotteries, so I got both of my Wisp quests done. That was...
I'm still on it. I'm still on it. Oh my god.
That took some time. Yeah, so I'm really pushing hard once they release the Alchemist. So, since we last talked, not only did the major hotfix come out, which added the Alchemist and what was the other one? Was it the Surgeon? They added two. Alchemist, Surgeon.
Alchemist and Surgeon, yeah.
Yeah, they did that, and then they did what in this last hotfix? So the big hotfix on the 30th had a lot of stuff going on.
Some changes to barbarian, some changes to warlock, a slight. They fixed bugs where like the Wiz Invis wasn't leaving the trail, which thank God.
That's the other thing that so real quick, quest.
I see that
staying on the quest topic. So Alchemist Surgeon came out, and then they started giving group credit for boss kills and player kills, right? So that was it. That was a game changer. So that made it a lot better because, yeah, it definitely had, as a cleric main, I was concerned about how long it was going to take me to get any of the kill quests done, for sure. So yeah, it feels good overall. The Wisp lottery, I was not digging. The Goblineers are brutal. Right now, I'm stuck on the Alchemist. I'm really pushing hard because I really want the full inventory available for my cleric. But yeah, feels good. I'm stuck on freaking moldy bread of all the things. I'm stuck on moldy bread. Like
the worst part is that you probably you probably open up inventory so many times. You've probably seen hundreds of moldy bread, and you just don't think to pick them up until you need them.
Until I need it. Yeah. Oh, I know. I sold probably 10 or 20 right before they added the Alchemist quest line because I had looked. Some awesome troubadour had thrown up the full quest guide that listed everything out. So I went through and was like earmarking all the craftables I was going to need. So I didn't throw them away. So they're taking up all my inventory space right now. And I'm really regretting not going straight for the 10K third stash tab. If I ever built a quest guide, my number one and number two things would be get your 3K, get tab number one, then go straight for 10K and get tab number two. And then, collect a few rare things along the way by looking at the quest guide and knowing what you're gonna need. But yeah, man, the freaking moldy bread killing me. I need 2 more, and then the alchemist is done, and I'll feel good.
And can we just give a little bit of credit to Iron Mace, like how quickly they noticed the issue of not getting kill credit on bosses
Yeah.
or mob
Oh
kills,
yeah.
and they
Huge.
patch it right away. So it's like
Yep.
huge
And all that,
props to them.
by
Yeah.
the way, was in the midst of them dealing with horrendous server issues. They really came to a head over the last weekend, and they got down to it, and they worked over the weekend. And like, this is a company that never takes time off. Like, they've taken mini vacations that act as weekends that we normal plebs get to enjoy. Non-streamers, some present company excluded. They've just been, the cadence of the patches, how in tune they've been with player feedback, how much they've been paying attention. Like, they're killing it, man. I gotta say, nothing but respect for where they're at right now. As many times as I can complain about specific things about the game, it's just like they're a small team that has done way more than almost any other game I've ever played has done. Props to them, man.
Yep.
Yeah, they definitely have a lot of passion for the game. They don't always do the right things. They don't sometimes do the wrong things, but they're always trying to do something. And I feel like their intent is always in the right place, and that's
Yep.
good.
Agreed.
Yeah, so a lot of the spawn rates like moldy bread and the wolf pelt. I don't know what the wolf pelt spawn rate is, but moldy bread is like 3.3%, and it's on
low.
tons of different mobs, right? It's like 4, 5, 6 different types of skeleton can have it in both normal and HR, of course. I think that's right. Don't quote me on that. There's at least 4 different types of skeletons, I think.
There's been some kind of like conflicting reports that HR monsters, because their loot tables tend to favor more valuable items, that they don't drop those lower tier items quite as much. So
Really? That's
like
interesting.
rusty swords and intact skulls are things that you'll see a little bit more on HR mobs, but all the lower tier stuff like bones and broken skulls and old cloth and stuff like that, you don't see quite as much on the higher tier mobs in HR.
Makes
So it does kind of give you like this, if that is the case, and it seems to be from the data people have collected, because nobody's made a spreadsheet yet. It seems like there's a good reason to go both normal and HR, which I like. I like there being incentives for people to like experience the pipeline of normal to HR in an organic way, not in a way that they feel forced to, but just like, okay, I've done a bunch of normals, I started stacking up some gear, I'm ready to go HR and look for those items that I'm looking for, that I'm just trying to hunt down the last ones. And it kind of encourages players towards HR. And I like that it's become the new normal that we consider as like, veteran players. I'm curious to see what that will look like when we go to Steam and there's a huge influx of new players that will die to the first red skeleton in their spawn box 10 out of 10 times.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just crazy
that's
how
when normal
quickly.
games. Sorry.
Oh, you're good. Go.
I said that's whenever Steam release happens, that's when the normal lobby I think is going to be super important for these people coming in, and them just getting in and learning and dying and not losing much, and being able to go back in again and not get stopped by sweaty dorks like me. And I think I'm not playing as much normals as I would, because the leaderboard is actually very enticing this time around, unlike last season. So, but I do love the normal game mode, and whenever I'm just like playing solo, sometimes I'll just hop in normal, mess
fun.
around, just go VoIP to people, have a good time, not take it too seriously, and just have fun. And I'm still happy it's there. But it definitely seems like it's the least popular of the 2 game modes at the moment.
It strikes a good mix, I think, of try hard and just have fun. Because I feel like you can go into normals and you can go in with the intent of like, we're going to practice, we're going to be really good as a team, or we're just going to try really hard to win this lobby and get as many kills as we can, go HR or go Inferno and do bosses. But like almost every experience I've had at normals, if you just VoIP to people, that's where people are chill. Even if it's like a murder ball lobby and you just talk to people and just, pass the charisma check, most people are just like, that guy's cool. What am I going to get? A couple greens off him? Whatever.
Exactly.
It's just crazy to think for me, because I was definitely in the camp of, I think, probably a large portion of the player base that prior to HR going free, I spent very little time in there in the previous seasons, right? Very, very little time. And going in there, it was like, oh, elite mobs are actually difficult. I wasn't going down to hell that often either from normal, so I wasn't used to the elite mobs. But in this short amount of time, like to me, the elite mobs are now just the normals. And like going back to a normal dungeon feels like it's on easy mode. It's pretty crazy how different it feels already. It's nuts.
It does. It really does. Even in starter gear, you just feel like it's training wheels.
Yeah. Well, it's crazy. You actually let people go into your game mode for free, and they get to get in there and practice and get reps in. It's almost like it makes sense. Imagine that.
Yeah.
It's almost like a paywall. Almost like we've been saying that's it. Like I remember back in playtest 2, everybody was like, "Oh, dude, High Roller's so cool. It's like where the elite players are, and you get to pay money to get in there." Just like had this mysterious, like kind of aura about it. And then playtest 3 came around. You're like, all right, High Roller, that's where we go to get the good gear. That's where the kind of sweaty players are. Playtest 4 came around, like, why are we paying money to get in here, man?
Well, I mean, so bad. Since you're so bad, you must fondly remember way before this podcast was started when they first announced HR and they announced it being behind a fee and a paywall. Me and Sobad had like a 3-hour long, not an argument, but a very heated debate about if that's good or bad for the game. And I was always against them being behind a gold fee because I think you should not have the premium game mode for your game behind a paywall in a sense. I think that's like if this is your ranked, like imagine if League of Legends you had to pay LP to go queue for ranked. That's ridiculous. No one, I don't know. I always thought that was
sorry if you had to pay LP to go play ranked. That's called the 50% win rate. That's where League wants you.
Yeah, I mean, you know what I mean.
No, I get what you're saying, and I really like where they've come with the game, and like changing it to be free is definitely I think. First of all, they heard the feedback from the white lobbies, and they were like, "We're keeping this, okay? HR, everybody likes HR being free. We're keeping this. These are good things. The game is now in a better state than it's been in a really long time, and everybody that's currently playing the game really enjoys it. Aside from some balance gripes and some bugs, and minor, like I fucking hate Goblin Caves. I'm only playing it to get blue on my barb, so I never touch it again. And then I'm gonna go try. I want to get like Voyager. I don't think I can grind enough to play to get Demigod, but we'll see. Yeah, I mean. I remember thinking to myself, the gold was a good way to stop players from getting into it that shouldn't be there and then get like a bad taste in their mouth about how the game works. Like, oh, this is how the game is supposed to be played. This is where I need to go if people want me to, I want people to think I'm good. And everybody kind of values perception in a different light or in a different weight. But I think putting it behind a paywall sort of gave it this like prestige to it and made it really mysterious and interesting. And you're like, these guys are paying money to fight each other. That's fucking cool. But then as the game developed, Iron Mace could kind of see, or at least I expect that they saw that putting it behind a paywall was just sort of unnecessarily prohibitive. And now that we have it all free, we can see what it's like to actually just get to drop in and play the game that you want. Like you said, the prestige game mode.
Well, they killed multiple birds with one stone with what they did there. And when you combine that with making common grade the top or the cap that you can take into normals, right? Because we were on here constantly talking about new player experience. And when they dropped the gold fee and put white or normals at white caps, they solved so many problems all at once that the game just overnight felt fantastic. And yeah, I still, we've been on here talking about that multiple times since those changes were made. I mean, when was the first time they went to, because they started at junk and then they went to poor and then they went to common. But the junk change, was that early October? Was that end of September? I can't believe it's been
No, it was only a couple of weeks. It's only a couple of weeks ago. I think it was 3 weeks ago that this all started. And they did start with just the junk quality. You could only go in with the shit you start with. And I think they quickly realized
longer than that. I thought it was October. Are you sure?
You might be thinking of when they had the blue rarity max and normals.
Yeah, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah, maybe that's what I'm thinking of. Okay,
that was end of September, I think.
That was a failed experiment.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Right.
SDF said he hated it. He's like, I hate gear cap, but he kind of obviously have come around because we're on normal. But yeah, they started on junk, and I think everybody kind of saw the writing on the wall with that, not being able to. The white lobby was sort of the best because it's the highest grade of gear that you can get without stats on it. And as soon as you can get into a tier of gear where you have stats, you can really start to create a really big power differential, especially if you want to min max. You get +2 of a stat on every piece of gear, plus 5 physical power is the max you could roll. You could get like 2 magic damage. You could really start to separate the lobbies. And I think even that, as silly as it sounds, normals being a place where nobody gets an unfair advantage, except people that want to fill their inventory with Franciscas or something. It's a good place for people to just enjoy the game in a casual light.
Totally agree. And Ken, you mentioned in a previous show that it does put greens in kind of a weird state. But the way I think about greens now, it's basically just, hey, it's free money. Like I don't even mind if I'm in a normal raid just kind of messing around. Well, normally I'm going down to Inferno now. Well, that's kind of the standard, right? Like if you're going into normal, I'm going in there for questing, or I'm going down to Inferno, which is also for questing because I want to kill centaurs or demon bats, or now I got to grind the lich, right? Like I got to get 15 lich kills, 14 now. And it's extracting with green gear doesn't feel that bad. I mean, I'm obviously looking to pick up blues and purples if I can in Inferno, but if I just extract with a full inventory, I'll pick up a green Bardiche because I know I'm going to get paid for the dumb thing when I get out.
100 gold easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
if I roll a slot, why not pick them up?
And if I'm hurting for gear, green has become the starter kits for HR, essentially. That's the way I look at it. It is your starter kit for any HR dungeon if you're struggling. You lose a couple good kits, go get some greens real quick.
I think you get a couple of greens, you load into HR, then the first couple of mobs you kill, the first couple of chests you open, they're just easy upgrades,
Absolutely. Yep.
Get the ball rolling.
It's the normal to HR pipeline. I think they've done such a good job. I think we could clean up some of the gear rolls. I know that people argue that having a diluted pool where you can get dead stats on an item is fine. And I do agree with that for higher tier items because it makes the god roll items just that much better. But I do think they could maybe do some sort of like deterministic balancing where lower end gear is a little better rolled on average. So if you get, a green, it's not going to have some stupid off roll garbage that doesn't make sense for the item on it, because you're not going to use it in a normal lobby anyway. So
well,
it's
maybe
not
Go ahead.
Oh, I kind of like the idea. So, like, what you're saying is if it's a green piece that only rolls one affix on it, it's like a higher priority that it's like a relevant stat, like a strong base stat. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, like if you get a padded tunic that has 2 strength, it'll have either fizz power, maybe movement speed, maybe strength, maybe more vigor, maybe max health, something that makes sense for the item. That isn't just like, oh, I got magic interaction speed on my padded tunic. Great.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. Or if it is going to roll one of the lesser desired stats, like, interaction speed typically, then maybe it would always roll towards the higher end. So you're not going to see like 0.9% interaction speed. You would see like the range would be from 5 to 15% rather than from 0 to 15%.
There's an argument that if we get a bunch of crazy bis roll risk items, that people running normal dungeons could actually put together full risk sets for people that are running rat rogues on ruins and want those full risk sets that are like 15% a piece, and just send them off. And it's like, okay, here's a 400 gold set of risk greens. That's bis. And you now have like 200% mining speed. You get in and out of that cave before anybody even leaves their spawn module.
Dude, I live in those caves these days, man. I live in those caves.
Yeah, so HR ruins did not exist the last time we did a podcast. How is Mr. Navi feeling about HR ruins?
I love it. I spending way more time in ruins than I thought I ever would. Mostly on my naked rogue mining. I'm not really doing much fighting these days. I just I put double jump on, I get a pickaxe, I get some meds, and I run around hitting caves, pickpocketing, trolling people, just having a good time. But just as an observer on the map, not really participating, just me being there observing. There's a lot of people there. They're always fighting. They're doing quests. It's very active. There's no dull moments. There's no dull moments on HR Ruins. And it's long overdue, I think. I'm happy it's here.
It's I mean, we kind of all knew it was going to come. The one thing that I'm curious about is that they've still been tossing around this idea of doing Ruins to Crypts to Inferno, which makes me wonder. And I think it is, but it makes me wonder if, it's funny actually, if you look around the ruins, there are little spots that you can find that are like pillars are broken in front of like a little cage, and those weren't there before. They were there in the first versions of the map, and then they took them out, and now they're back in. So there's like these little broken the stairs in the middle map with the broken bridge. There's pillars leaning up against one of the stairs that has a cage behind it. And if you walk up to the pillars, you can see like, oh, that's actually a down right there. Why is that there? Why would they put that there? Yeah, I think it's still coming, but
so question: what do we think? Do we think that they're gonna have a separate lower tier for ruins, or do we think they're going to go with their original plan of ruins being B1, those exits going down into crypts, which is B2, and then have Inferno be B3?
And I think there's going to be at least, so that's a 5x5. I'm guessing there are going to be at least 8. I think I've found 5, if not 6, of the red static extracts on ruins, at least. I'm guessing there's going to be, let's say, between 6 and 8 static extracts, and I think they open them up after 3 minutes. To go down.
Do we think they keep the blue extracts and let people leave if they want to? Yes. Or do they make it so that you have to go down?
No.
I think we're getting away from like the portals being the main extracts. I think we're kind of leaning more into more static extracts, which I kind of like. I think it has to be changed slightly. I've said it before, I'll say it again. I think you shouldn't just be able to run out of a dungeon, have the door just be open and just walk out instantly. Like Tarkov has, you walk into an extract, 1 second, 2 second, 3 second. I think it's like some extracts are 15 seconds in Tarkov, so you have to like sit there and leave. So you can't just like be in the middle of a fight and then get bailed out by an exit.
Right.
Yeah. That's a little silly in my opinion, but I think that's like an easy fix. I'm not sure if it's on Iramis's radar, but I think if it's not, it should be. And I think that's sorry.
I want to talk more about HR ruins, and I like where you're getting with this, but I do want to mention. Well, you know what? Before we get too far away from HR ruins, because I think there's more to be said about it. There is a topic that goes adjacent to this, and I'm sure if you guys have been reading the Reddit and just the general discourse around the game, we've heard a lot about let's get rid of the swarm. Let's really take away everything that forces players to fight each other inorganically, and I guess we call the zone inorganic. That's what people sort of been calling it, and make the things that force players together be points of interest that they go to because they want the good loot. And they've sort of already done that with things like gold chests and royal coffins and stuff like that. But let's talk about that after. I do want to mention that HR ruins is it shows that there is a shifting meta to the game depending on how the map is designed. Ranger and Rogue are fucking annihilating everyone on ruins. It's just they are the gods of that map, and that's just how it is. And there is nobody that can contest them. You've got plate longbow fighter in a distant third just because they can duel with rangers a little bit. But everybody else is like, all right, I'll settle for purple, I guess. I don't know. I'll get forager rank. How do we feel about the fact that they're really honing in on these maps? And do we want the game to be balanced around the maps and let the classes shine where they're supposed to? Or do we want to reel in the classes to feel good on every map? Do we think that's even possible?
It's not possible.
I don't think so. Ken, how do you feel about ruins for Wizard?
It's hard. Very hard. Mainly because rogues are so apparent, and like rogues getting the jump on Wizard is just like, you're dead. Nothing you can do about it. I'm not sure if it's like a map issue though, just in talking about runes and rogues and rangers being strong on them, or it's a problem with rogues and rangers being stronger with a smaller team size. Because like rogues and rangers also very strong in goblin caves where they're solo, and then like they're strong in ruins because there's only 2 people per team. But once you start having 3 people per team, I feel like most squads have enough tools to deal with rangers and deal with rogues. And you just don't have all those tools in a smaller team size or in a solo setting. And I think that's where the issue might be. It might not necessarily be the map, with the exception of like some of the jump spots you can get to with double jump rogue. But double jump's a fundamentally broken ability to begin with, and that should go. As somebody who's been abusing it,
I agree. That should never have been added to the game. It was stupid from the point
if you've been watching my stream at all recently, like, me just double jumping around ruins, I die a lot because I'm stupid. But like if I wanted to not die, I could just never die. It's ridiculous. Some of the parkour you could do.
What's it like for you on ruins, Scott, as a primarily bard and cleric enjoyer? I feel like bard is fucking dog shit on normal ruins. It's the worst class on ruins by like every other class is like miles ahead of it, even the worst class, which is probably warlock. But
It's been a
high
hot
roller
minute.
barb, high roller bard is a little different. I feel like they're actually quite strong.
I have not spent much time. So questing has kind of honed me in on only playing one character. And I was going to kind of circle back to this later, but maybe now is a good time. So last week, I mentioned our last episode, said I thought you should have to do your quests for each character. And there was some opposition to that. And I read a few things outside of the pod. And now I've pretty much come full circle. I think they should be account wide. I think that they are. It's given how time consuming they are, right? Because right now I'm only incentivized to play one class unless I just grind for so long or get so frustrated that I want to switch up and do something. Like my main focus is just get all the quests done on my cleric. And so this is the least I've played my other characters ever since the game has existed. I probably played in playtest weeks, single weeks, probably played more of multiple classes than I have since this patch came out. But back to your original question anyway, is that Bard felt okay. Cleric feels decent Cleric feels decent everywhere, but yeah, I mean, rogues on ruins scare the shit out of me still. My son and I jumped in. We played, I think we ran 4 or 5 HR ruins raids, and we got out 4 out of 5 and had several kills and had a good time. So I was playing cleric, he was playing ranger, and the reason for that was not because we were playing great. It was that HR is actually littered with a bunch of people that are not geared, and we went in well geared. So yeah, we had a couple decent fights. We ended up getting killed by a rogue that stealthed around the corner, showed up right in both of our faces, and he downed Caleb before he even knew what was happening. And then I was dead mere seconds later. But I mean, it was a rogue experience. They had the named legendary short sword and all kinds of other stuff. So I mean, it was probably a fight that I was not going to win.
There's an artifact short sword?
No, the divine blade. I think he's talking about.
Yes, the late name legendary. Yeah,
yeah. So, but yeah, overall, I agree with you guys. Overall, HR Ruins feels pretty damn good.
HR Ruins Felix. That's pretty good. It's okay. So I mentioned before that one of the main points of discourse in the community right now is let's get rid of the zone. We want to be more like Tarkov. And somebody on Reddit actually made a really good point, and I'd love to go ahead and vamp for me because I should have prepared this while I was listening to your comment, but I was listening to intently, so I wasn't really paying attention. But I'd love to point out a comment that someone made on the Dark and Darker that compared Tarkov and Hunt, which are two vastly different games that they utilize different zone systems and different points of interest and stuff. Tarkov has this massive map that does not really force players to interact with each other. You're still probably going to get picked off once in a while, but if you really want to rat, even if you don't know what you're doing, as long as you just kind of stay away from the very obvious bad guy zones, you can kind of get away with just picking up the scraps and getting out once you know where the extracts are. But Hunt Showdown, which is now like sort of the closest parable, is a very different experience and a little more similar to Dark and Darker, despite not using the zone. And where you have I think the whole point about this was the MMR system. They kind of like Escape from Tarkov will just throw a bunch of players in, doesn't give a shit about your MMR, but the map is big enough that you stay away from each other. Hunt Showdown has MMR, the map is smaller, forces people in together, but because the MMR keeps players' skill kind of closer to each other, they're more encouraged to engage in those activities. Do we think Dark and Darker can work in a context where, with this new MMR system where people are noticing that they're being put against players their own skill level a little bit more, can enjoy the game without a zone if they're just allowed to take it at their own pace? If they're feeling confident, they can go for these high points of interest that give a lot of loot. And if they're feeling like they just want to rat it out and get the fuck out, they can skirt around the edges and take the scraps and leave.
Just to like touch on your MMR statement, I've had a great many people come into my chat post fight in Dark and Dark and be like, what the hell am I doing in your lobby? I am.
I have heard that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm like adventure, whatever, and you're exemplar one. And like, what's going on here? I should not be in the same lobby as you. This MMR system isn't working. And they're probably right. It probably isn't working. And I think it shouldn't work. I don't think MMR is the way to go. I said it before, I'll say it again. I love the Tarkov system of have anybody in your lobby. You don't know who's in there. It could be fucking Landmark. It could be a D2 camper. It could be some Timmy. It could be anybody. But just like the mysticism of not knowing who's in your lobby makes the game more interesting to me anyway.
Me too. Yeah, and player population solves that problem. And they did. Terry mentioned on his last interview with One Peg that they do have the ability to control those buckets dynamically. So if they see that the player pop on any server on any map at any given time is relatively low, they can take those buckets from 3 MMR levels down to 1 with, click of a button, or maybe not even that. Maybe it's already fully automated, fully coded. Business logic is in, and it's just going to dynamically adjust. So yeah, I haven't noticed any MMR. I've still been ending up in odd lobbies with super sweaty players, and then what I feel like are complete noobs at times as well. So, and I'm probably middle of the road ish.
So to clarify on the comment, I did find it, and I don't really have a way to like effectively screen share it for everybody to see on all the streams. So I'll just kind of read off like the main points. But it was just that Tarkov is the kind of map, because it's so big, you can rat around on the outsides and actually still accomplish things and like get quests done. You can still kind of start to stack up your inventory a little bit. Whereas Hunt is a game that, because the map's a little smaller and because it's more encouraging, that the game design is more set to encourage players to engage with one another. Ratting around the edges of the map feels like a waste of time. You're really not accomplishing anything, and you don't feel good about it when you're done. I think Dark and Darker falls into the former, the Tarkov, where you can kind of just play around outside the map, but it's more based on your game knowledge and game sense. I've had pretty good experience with soloing Warlock, except tonight it was fucking miserable. But I felt like overall in my time playing Dark and Darker, when I play solo, I hate Goblin Caves. I don't want to play it ever. I'll avoid it at all costs. I'm only doing it to get blue rank on my barb, and then I'm never going to touch it again. But I think if you want to rat around, you can, especially now that they've added these blue extracts. Good example is Crypts. You spawn the northeast that has like the 2 zombie boxes right next to each other, and then the zigzag hall that has
the world's greatest spawn.
The world's greatest spawn with the fucking static extract. You're set. You can rat over there. You can kill all those boxes and just sit your happy ass down and wait for that gate to open up. And
it's so funny because from the rat perspective, that's like the best spawn. But when you're just like playing the 3 stack, you load and you're like,
you hate it. Yes.
This spawn.
Yep.
So far from everything.
It feels like I get that spawn pretty often when I rat, so I almost felt like it was intentional. But yeah, when I see trio spawn there, I'm like, man, everybody in this lobby must be a trio, because there's no other reason people would spawn here. So I realize I've tangented a little bit.
No, you're good. I do want to talk about like the circle, like thing.
Let's talk about the swarm.
Yeah,
we want to try no swarm.
What's I'm saying? We have a system in place where we have seasons, right? We wipe frequently. I don't see a reason why we just can't try it out for a season. I think it's interesting enough where we could do it. I think if you remove the swarm, all of a sudden it kind of opens up the possibility to putting more players in your map, because you're not forcing everybody into a small area at the end. If you could have 20, 25 people in crypts and they could spread out, people will play in the center because they want to fight, go for points of interest. People will play at the edge, they want to rat around. I think there's enough loot for everybody, and then you're gonna have more people in hell. I think it would be wild and crazy and fun. I think it would be cool. And we have enough statics now. I think you could do that. Everybody can get in or go down. One or the other. There's no question about it.
That brings up the question, though. If we add more players to the lobby, what if we get an absolutely crammed Inferno because everybody's just avoiding each other to get down to Inferno?
Let's go.
We just every single team, all 8 boxes on the outside have a team spawn inside of them.
How about it?
What do you think, Scott?
Just put more time in the clock so I can kill them all. That's all I'm saying.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, if there's no swarm, you got all the time in the world. You just fucking kill them all. World is a fuck. Wizard explosion. Kill them all. 295,000 wizards dead.
I'm a cleric main, but okay.
Okay. Well, I mean, cleric main now. Okay.
I know he's joined the ranks of the holy men. I love it.
That's great.
Absolutely love it.
I started my experience as a cleric, man. I get
So
it.
good. The Storm Rider. Yeah, like I give zero fucks about the Storm as a cleric. Like it's so easy to just hang out in the Storm and take the static extracts. It is, in my opinion, the best ratting class
So
out
the
there
Swarm
now
doesn't even
because you have
exist to you.
infinite. No.
Yeah,
So talk to us about a no Swarm game where everybody else is doing that.
Yeah, might be less interesting. Actually, I mean, I think the points of interest might need to become even more buffed. I don't know. But I'm with you guys. And I think if you try it out, you could try out a season. You could add it into the lore too. So what if there was some kind of goal state where if over the course of a week, let's say it's weekly and not seasonally, if over the course of the week, the Lich, the Ghost King, and the Warlord are all killed X amount of times in HR, let's say, to make it difficult, then the magic of the Dark Swarm has dissipated for the following week, right?
That's fucking cool.
So something like that, where you tie it into the lore questing of the game, where you could effectively the player base could deactivate the Swarm for a week if they really grinded for it. Something like that could be cool as well. But at the very least, if we're keeping it simple, yeah, do a season. But the ice map is going to be our first introduction to that. The real question is, do we think the ice map is coming this month, or is it going to be January?
I mean, if So Bad is here, he'd be like, "Oh yeah, for sure, we're getting ice map tomorrow, baby."
The Ice Dragon's
Druid will be done. Warlock will be done.
The Ice Dragon's going to require the entire map to come together. I'll fill in for So Bad. Yeah, listen, Iron Mace has been cooking. Okay, they delayed the patch this week because next week they're going to have the patch. And I'm telling you, the Ice map is going to be game changer, and everyone's going to want to play there. It's going to require everybody to use VoIP and play together, because if they don't, they're not going to be able to kill the dragon. The dragon has a guaranteed artifact drop, and when it drops, all hell breaks loose. It's going to be crazy. Iron Mace is popping off.
That was a really So Bad impression. That's pretty spot on.
So the reason I wanted to mention the Swarm thing is I was thinking about some of the details that they leaked about this ice map, and if you pay close attention to the image that they shared to us, it does kind of look like an ice themed Blight Town, and of course anything can be extrapolated or speculated from that image that they did share to us. But one thing you'll notice is that the background is very expansive. And one thing I was wondering is have they thought about experimenting with a really large scale map that is almost, Swarm off, big persistent map that could support a ton of teams, like double, triple what we have right now, with a roaming boss on the map. Talk about this Ice Dragon. It's an Ice Dragon, dude. Is it going to sit in one spot, or is it going to fly around the map and terrorize everybody? What lengths does Iron Mace really want to go to? Of course, it's all speculation, but what would you think if we had a map that no zone? It's just a big ass open map, and you have 20, 30 minutes to play the map out before there is some kind of thing that forces you to get the hell out. I don't know if Tarkov has like a system that can stop players from sitting on a map for 9.5 hours if they really want to. Maybe somebody who's played it can enlighten me.
Well, you die at the end if you don't. I mean, there is a timer.
Okay.
But it's like some maps are like 45 minutes, so it's like a long timer. And
so something where you could just stay on the map for as long as you feel comfortable doing within a reasonable time limit. But there is like one persistent looming threat that is like the world boss that everybody can kind of converge on, and you'll see it flying around and terrorizing people, and it might be the thing that draws teams together, because they're like, well, the dragon's attacking somebody, let's go check out what's over there. Maybe they're dead. Maybe we can loot them. Maybe we'll go kill them while they're fighting the dragon. We'll get the boss kill.
Well, Tarkov kind of has not something similar on like a smaller scale, where they have like map specific bosses that have like multiple spawn points. Like Gluhar, for example, on the reserve map has like 8 spawn points that he could be in either of them, and he can actually like move around and roam sometimes depending on what happens in the map. And so you don't always know if he's going to be in this building, so you clear it, and you don't know if he's going to be in this building, so you clear it, and sometimes you won't be expecting it, and you'll just run into him, and he'll fucking destroy you and destroy your squad, and then or you'll roll up and you'll see a pile of bodies, and you at some other squad that got laid out by Gluhar, and you're like, oh, Gluhar's here. So it's like a little unrelated, but kind of similar to what you're talking about. If you have like a boss that roams around or has multiple spawn locations, or you can even do that with like some of the mini bosses now on Crypts, where maybe they're not static spawns, but they could be in spawn XYZ you depending on the RNG of the map, and just to keep things fresh and cool and interesting. And so you're not just like running around the same pattern every game, hitting all the hotspots.
Yep.
It
I
does.
dig
It
that.
does start to feel a little repetitive in that sense, where I like that it's sort of in rewards player knowledge and experience, where there's a skeleton champion in the triangle corner room, and then there's a wraith in the next door. You're gonna get those two. You're gonna hit the big important chest, and then you're gonna move on. Um, that sort of makes it for players that play a lot. That sort of like you said, having some variety to it, or if we maybe make them more valuable than they are right now, because they feel a little unless you get a golden key, it's kind of shit. Give them more value, but make them move around so it's not guaranteed. And if you do run into them where you weren't expecting them, shit could go south real fast. Scott, talk to me about your experience with what you think about a map that has kind of like some random spawns, maybe some openness to it. We've already experimented that with the ruins a little bit, but
Yeah.
how big do we think we can go here? Like, is there a world where we have an ice dragon flying around antagonizing teams and forcing people to run at each other?
I think that'd be great. And in fact, the boys on the Darkest Hour podcast Tuesday night were talking about this exact same thing, whether or not a swarm boss would be appropriate, right? Instead of having the Dark Swarm, but maybe the Dark Swarm, it becomes a being that roams the map, right? And you have to
Slender
deal
Man
with,
chasing
with
you. You got to find the
swarm
fucking
boss.
pages before he picks you up.
Something like that, yeah. But I think if you do drop the swarm and you have roaming bosses, random spawns for your sub bosses, that definitely adds some nice variety. Because you're right, when I get that spawn in the corner room, I know exactly the route I'm gonna turn right.
Your
when
next
I come
5
out of
minutes
that
are
room.
planned out.
Yeah, I know it's gonna be an axe or a spearman right there. I'm gonna 3-shot him, open up the bookcase, go down the stairs, jump off where the pod is, right across his traps. Then I'm gonna nuke all the bats, open the royal, then jump across, kill the other skelly, get the freaking lion's head chest, flip the switch, go up, and then get into my cheese spot, kill the skelly champ, nuke twice, and the rest of the skeletons are dead. And then we're ready to start raiding.
It's
right?
funny,
Like,
he's running a guide for you.
I know the exact
Yeah.
pattern you're talking about.
yeah, I mean, it's programmed at this point.
It does feel a little programmed, which I think does make it feel a little repetitive in a place where they could maybe mix it up. And asking them to do more almost feels like a sin, because goddamn, they just keep delivering.
I know.
And I gotta hype it up a little bit because I'm so bad tonight. But they just keep it's banger after banger after banger, and Iron Maces just keeps delivering in it. But they are still a small team, which makes me really excited for the fact that they're now
not for long. Yeah.
They're on a new office, and amidst all these problems that we've been dealing with the servers and everything, we now have sort of an excuse for it, which is that they were moving to a new office and they're hiring more people. They're going full throttle. They're ready to start the new year. I expect we might get the druid and the map pool change before maybe Christmas time, because that was what Terry and SCF wanted. Realistically, I'd like to let them just hold off on it because everybody's really enjoying the game right now. If we go into a lull and people are taking breaks, it's fine. It's the holidays. Let people go enjoy time with their family. Give them an excuse to get away from the computer for a little bit. Except for the streamers, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But just come back on the new year fucking hyped after you guys take a vacation with that new office, ready to tackle the world and see where Dark and Darker can go, because there's so many cool things we can do. But what's everybody's overall feeling on, now that we've had a couple weeks to let the meta sit in? Ken, I think you can take the floor here because you have the most experience and the most variety of game states.
It feels pretty good, at least like in the sweaty high-end high roller situation. I feel like I'm fighting a wide variety of comps, most of them having a cleric, but not all of them. There's some bard teams out there, a lot of wizards, there's a lot of everything with the exception of warlocks. But I'm even running into like a decent amount of warlocks, and they're fucking annoying sometimes. Actually. So I mean, I don't think anything is super out of balance, with the exception of I always talk about rogues, but I don't think rogue is in balance. I just feel like it's never a good time getting jumped from stealth and getting 2-shot. No matter what class you are. I just think it's a bad gameplay loop. Yeah, no matter how you put it. But I think overall rogue isn't an imbalanced class, because there's a lot of stuff you could do against it. There's a lot of stuff you could do before that happens. It's just that's just like a feel bad moment that I always talk about. But the meta feels good. I think a lot of people are talking about fighter PDR being strong again. That's what I hear a lot of people complain about, at least on stream. I'm kind of curious what you guys think about that.
I've been playing Barb in solos, and my plan is to. I had a team that I was playing with a lot, but most of them have kind of like either taken a break or they're more onto solo just to get quests done and then wait for the big druid patch. So I'm now in a point where I just want to get blue and solo for the Skelly reward and then move on to start like try hard practicing with a team that I'm gonna play with consistently. But my experience with Barb so far has been that Barb is back, baby. It's just doing what it was always doing. It's got Warm All to beat the shit out of fighters. You just put Crush on, they can't block shit, and you just run them down. They have to cut you out. There's checks and balances everywhere in the meta, and Wizard and Barb keep fighter in check. Ranger and Rogue sort of keep Barb in check to some extent. Cleric is Cleric, and it feels like it's in a really good spot. I think the changes that they made to it a couple patches back, where they nerfed a few of the spells, but they buffed recovery, and they've sort of changed some of the values.
Huge.
Makes Cleric feel exactly like it should feel. It's a battery for its team, but it's not a battery that they just fucking outlast you no matter what you do. Now they feel like their investment time to get a big heal off on somebody is big, and if they miss, it's fucking GG because they've really spent all that time doing nothing. But they're a high skill, high reward, high power class that doesn't feel unfair. So I think we're in a good spot. I think Magic Missile could probably get a small nerf because it feels a little bit unfair when you get up close to them, and there's positions where you sort of get checkmated, I feel like, against a wizard, mostly being hallways with bodies where you're like, he has chain lightning. If I don't just leave this area and let him take all my shit and say fuck it, then he's gonna kill me. And if I push him, he's gonna kill me. So he wins by existing unless I want to recklessly throw my life away. Aside from that, I really don't have any complaints about the meta. I think it's great. I think Warlock has gotten good buffs. It's in a good spot. I think it's still a little weird in solos. I maybe just haven't found the right play style for it, but
I haven't leveled my Warlock yet. I've been wanting to because I think it's sleeper. I think people are doing it all wrong. In a 3 setting, because
I think it's sick in 3s.
Warlock is strong in 3s, but nobody wants to play with a Warlock because it's annoying playing with a Warlock on your team. Because Hydra could just RNG grief your team, Flamewalker could just RNG grief
You
your
have
team.
mobs following you around so they can suck them dry and shit. It's annoying.
But I think there's a way you could just play Warlock without Hydra and without Flamewalker. If you just play like Double Curse, Bolt of Darkness, Eldritch Shield, and the Ray of Darkness, and just be like a wizard that's tankier.
Here's my thought on and we've been kind of like going back and forth. We haven't given Scott much time to talk here, and I want to hear what he has to think too. But I do want to talk about Warlock because I think it's sick and I like what they're doing with it. What I tested very briefly was my idea for their build was Curse of Weakness, because it's now a 25% reduction in a 8 stat spread for 10 seconds. You can take Curse Mastery to make it 30% longer. So even with debuff resistance against certain classes, like imagine getting hit with 25% stat reduction on a rogue. You're just like, fuck my life, dude. Fuck my life. It's a short range spell, so it's not just this like free thing that Warlock gets to put on you because they're in your general vicinity. But it is really strong, and I feel like it's a good anti-push tool. But you have now Bloodstained Blade, which has some magic scaling, but it still gives physical weapon damage. So you can get it up to like 10 weapon damage that you can apply to somebody. And then you throw Eldritch Shield on them and Power Sacrifice on them. And they are now 15 Vigor, 15 Strength, plus 10 weapon damage. They don't take any damage from their own swings, and they block some of the damage that a wizard does with their initial burst from spells. You throw that on a fighter, a barb, a rogue, and then you have a second person buffing whoever's going up front, and they are just fucking disgusting. It's gross. And then you run Ray of Darkness or Bolt. You have to drop something somewhere if you want both. You have to drop POS or Curse of Weakness, but you've got that sort of like support Warlock that kind of pesters people and does a lot of range damage if you let them sit there. And they can just make a frontliner absolutely disgusting.
Especially with like wizards being as strong as they are right now and as popular as they are. Like I think Eldritch Shield is the most slept on ability in the game, and
it's so good.
It's crazy. I'm like, these Warlocks just aren't using it. I'm like, you understand? This just completely negates the wizard versus Warlock matchup. You just can't. I mean, you can, but it's very hard to lose against a wizard if you have Eldritch Shield and like Curse of Pain. It's so hard to lose.
And wizard is so meta right now. So
people are sleeping.
So Scott, you have played. You've now mentioned that you played a lot of ruins. You've done a bit of crypts. We've played together. You saw
Mhm.
the warlock build that I was talking about, but we played with the
Yeah.
wizard both time, so it's a little
Mhm.
different. And warlock's too squishy to go run up front with that kind of build, so it had some kind of some back and forth. But what do you think about the overall meta? Are you feeling like everything's good so far? Are you happy with? I mean, both of your
Yeah.
classes are good in different places.
I think I have the same main concern that everybody else does, which is that magic missile feels punishing up front. I don't know what they could do for that. I don't know if 100% scaling is exactly healthy. Like it went from 50 to 100, right? Is 75 the sweet spot, or do you need to keep it 100 for PvE?
Just to correct you, it went from
75.
50 to 100 to 50 to 100, then back to 50, then to 100.
Right.
Sorry, just to clarify.
Yeah, I was just using the distinct number. Sorry. It's, yeah.
It's just
So,
ridiculous. Like 75 doesn't exist or something. What's going on?
I've never seen 75%. They don't know.
Right.
They might not know.
So outside of that, I have seen people. I've seen the fighter community say that a lot of them want more options to get into magic resist, and feels like I think dark plate is one of the few options. And Odin, you can keep me honest here because you play a lot of fighter. Outside of dark plate, what other magic resist roles can you get on items?
Nothing that still gives you PDR, which is kind of the point.
Well, I don't think you
But-
should be able to get both, but the fighters are saying, listen, I would sacrifice my PDR. I want more trade-offs. I want more armor like dark plate, where I would sacrifice some armor rating or a significant amount of armor rating to get more MR, to try to be a little bit more balanced.
I think fighters just want to be in. I think fighter right now is fine the way it is, except for its magic weakness, which is that the fighters want to be what barbs were a month ago, where they had 45% of both with a lot of HP, and they could sort of push and do a lot of damage up front, but they had enough survivability that they could put in a couple schmoves and get out of the way of some shit and still live as long as their cleric could land a heal on them. Right now, fighter is just like, okay, if you're ranger or your rogue, and even to some extent barb, but not really, they can still kind of crush them with warmaul. It feels like fighter has had the same problem always, which is that it has to like hone in on one thing and then just be bad at other shit. And it's really reliant on crossbow, which everybody hates. I don't even think fighters like crossbow. Nobody likes
Mhm.
crossbow.
Mhm.
Everybody's just kind of like Soapy likes crossbow. And I think Soapy is the only person that should be allowed to have a crossbow. Everybody
Well,
else
he's an
doesn't get
archer.
one.
He's an archer.
Right.
Archers have to.
No,
like crossbow.
just him. That's it. Just him. Nobody else gets them.
Dude, small tangent. Yesterday, I was playing with my team. We were juiced to the gills, like doing our sweat HR thing. We found a ranger. We were chasing him down. I prodded myself, prodded my team. We were all prodded and like health prodded, and this ranger just ops us with a windlass and just brings all three of us down to half HP with one shot. And if I didn't protection us, he might have just gotten the craziest clip of his life. I was like, wow, is windlass crossbow this strong that it's
Mhm.
just like destroying people? Like he almost one shot an entire team. Like,
It's a fucking ballista. It kind
yeah.
of makes sense, but I feel like if you're gonna make windlass do what it does, make
It's
it
cool. I'm not complaining about it. I just thought you said crossbow, and I just like had a fucking flashback to almost getting
PTSD
destroyed
moment.
yesterday. Yeah, it's crazy.
I think it should be. I think the reload should be less punishing, but the firing should be more punishing. You shouldn't be able to just run around with this big ass thing and just shove it in somebody's face and blow their fucking head off like it's a shotgun.
Well, the equip time needs to be more. You shouldn't be able to just pull it out and immediately equip it and unequip it.
You should move a lot slower while you have a windlass out. I think it should be very punishing to move, or it should have some kind of massive aim penalty. But I'm never a fan of adding RNG to something because you still feel cheated if you get one shot by it by a guy that's running around. It just doesn't feel good.
Yeah, a guy's running around, he like headshots you on accident because of RNG. That actually feels worse than
like he's aiming at the floor, or he just like pulled it out and missed, and it just headshots you. It's like, all right, well,
that's like that's my problem with the crossbow skeletons right now. Actually, I know it's another tangent, but it's crossbow related.
Dude, fuck crossbow skeletons.
No, but, well, they're not accurate. They shoot inaccurately. So like if you're trying to dodge them, like skillfully, sometimes you get punished just by bad luck, and you get a headshot by trying to dodge where they should be shooting you. I don't know. I just hate that. I hate the fact that RNG is a
You wait for the shot, you hear the And
you crouch
and you look to the left, you get a headshot.
He just randomly shoots to the left because he's fucking inaccurate. I'm like, all right, whatever. Sorry, but
we
what are we talking about?
You like multiple times.
Imbalanced crossbows.
We're mostly talking about the pain of fighter, which, as somebody who's played fighter a lot, I think the one thing that fighters, the pain that fighters feel is that they never feel like they excel at anything except being a damage sponge that can outtrade classes that don't have enough damage to outdamage them, which doesn't feel, it doesn't feel good. Like shields don't feel good to use because they're really inconsistent and they have these weird interactions with weapons clipping through them. You never know if you can actually block something or not if it's a heavy weapon and you have a smaller shield. You have to have like this really intimate knowledge of the shields, and it just doesn't feel like the class has. It doesn't. It feels like the class is supposed to be a tank, but a tank that crumples at the first sign of magic damage, and a tank that can't catch anything once they're at a sprint, and a tank that like doesn't have a lot of skill expression aside from dodging melees, but every class can do that. It feels like the reason I play longsword fighter is because it feels like the way the class should play. You're this very high risk, high reward class that specializes in something and does really well at it, but doesn't necessarily have like terrible drawbacks. You could pull out a longbow and still deal with other classes. You're not terribly slow if you're using a longsword because you're generally a little bit more mid-kitted, but the damage really isn't there unless you get a riposte. I think if anybody in chat could maybe sound off that has played a lot of fighter, it does feel like fighter has identities, but none of them feel great or specifically like exciting to play. It's a very generalist idea. It feels really, I don't know.
Isn't it what they're supposed to be though? To play devil's advocate, I mean, they are supposed to be the jack of all trades when it comes to combat. They're supposed to have access to all these things. Their stat rolls are 15 across the board. They're supposed to be.
It feels like you have to have a crossbow.
It does now, yes, and I agree. Something needs to be done.
And nobody likes
the crossbow. Yeah,
because people fucking hate getting hit by crossbows. Nobody likes using crossbow because it feels like shit if you miss your shot, and then you're playing this little. Let me duck behind here and reload my crossbow, and let's take another shot at one-shotting you. Like it doesn't feel. It feels out of whack with the rest of the game.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure how I want to word this, but we've been talking about fighter for a bit now, and I think it is relatively in a good spot as far as balance is concerned. But I do see your point of it not feel rewarding or having sense of skill expression. I've been saying that for a while. I've been saying a lot of classes actually lack a version of skill expression that is satisfying to do. I play wizard for the opposite of that, because there's lots of skill expression on a wizard and you get rewarded for playing well. Whereas sometimes playing a fighter, you W king, shield out, stat checking people. Barbarian's very similar. Like there's not a lot you can do to separate yourself from the pack, and that does feel bad. And I kind of wish we had more weapons like longsword, like more. I'm not sure what they could add to fighter to give it more. I think, but they don't have enough buttons to press. People like buttons. When I play wizard, I hit my E. I got 5 buttons I could choose from.
Everybody should have a wheel.
I hit Q. I have 5 other buttons I could choose from. That's great. I got 10 buttons. I got 12 buttons. Oh wait, I have tool belt. I got 17 buttons, baby. We are having fun. You know?
Okay, hold on. Really, really tangent here, but Dark Souls players, raise your hand. Everybody's played Dark Souls, right? Everybody fan it?
A little bit.
Okay. Anybody in chat has played Dark Souls? Anybody ever had Elden Ring? Same thing.
Yeah.
I love Elden Ring too. You have all these items that you can pick up and use. You got like these pots and these throwing knives and these bombs and all this shit, and all of it feels fucking useless. 99.9% of that shit that you pick up is just garbage, and it's just there to troll people or have fun with. One of the most exciting times in the game to me was when the loot was like really cranked up and fighter was getting Franciscas and throwing knives and fucking fire bombs and lanterns felt good. And you just have like all these tools that you could use. And I think they should lean more into this kind of stuff where classes have more utility based combat expression, where it's like my fighter is like really good at isolating people because I can use these tools to split one player off and then get them into a 1v1 where fighter's really good.
Random idea. Sorry, before I forget this. I think for classes like fighter, bard, barb, the melee adventurer classes, not wizard, not cleric, not warlock, you should have a larger tool belt. I think you should have 8 slots, 10 slots, more room to put these unique items onto them, because you don't have spells, things to manage, so you have more things to do, and that'll like give you more options, more skill expression.
Great idea. Yep.
With the items that are already in game. Because right
Bard
now, like, a bard,
especially the instruments are killing me.
I'm like, oh hey, my bard
terrible.
team, hey, I got a surgical kit. You want this? Your blue butts. Like, I don't have any fucking room for these surgical kits on my tool belt. I'm sorry.
Where am I
I
gonna
want
put
them.
that shit?
Yep.
But
Yeah,
It's
that's
my
that's
Wonder
really
Wall
good
over here, man. I got room for that shit. Got the whole band in my pocket.
Yeah. But yeah, that would be like a small band-aid fix that would actually add a lot of expression to a fighter or a barb.
So
Or
actually, it was funny they mentioned that as one of the suggestions I made many months ago when I sent Scott this big list of changes that I would make for stats. Is before they introduced Dex and Agility and Strength and Vigor, I'd actually made that sort of suggestion. I didn't suggest Dex specifically, but I sort of suggested more merging resourcefulness to agility, but then sort of lowering the curve a little bit to not make it quite as powerful. Maybe make endurance lower the encumbrance of armor, so that getting a lot of endurance on a tank class still makes you mobile, but it doesn't give you a shit ton of damage. You're just mobile, so you feel more useful in a fight, and like you can actually dodge spells. You're not moving at 50% speed and getting zapped and fucking toasted inside your armor. Part of that was also endurance would increase your bag space. So those little Tetris slots can be utilized for weapons, regardless of their size, as long as like maybe their weight or their class fit inside those. It could add more utility to classes like Fighter, who naturally are the weapon master and can use all kinds of different weapons. If I'm in an encounter with a warlock or a wizard, I don't really want to use a crossbow. Yeah, sure, I could hit him with a shot that ruins their fucking life and does 60% of their life, but it's a gamble, because if I miss and I get fireballed, chances are we're losing that fight. But if I see a wizard and I'm like, okay, it's time to switch to a recurve bow, that's a huge investment in my inventory to switch to a recurve or a longbow. And then on top of that, okay, we're in a fight with a barb. I see the barb coming. I want to switch to my longsword. That's fucking parry bait right there.
What if the weapon master perk gave you a third weapon slot to like have to hold a weapon?
Give
So
me another.
You can be
fucking
sword,
slot.
shield, crossbow, and got my halberd or whatever you want. Yeah,
Something that keeps people at range. You can check rogues and shit. Yeah, hell yeah.
That'd be really cool, actually.
Just more stuff that expands. And you remember, I think I brought this up on the podcast like last week, but maybe I'm forgetting and mixing things. But how would we feel about having 3 skill slots? I think it could fundamentally break certain classes. Like, can we imagine 10 spell wizard with arcane shield or intense focus or literally any of the other skills that
we did talk about it. I think it would break some things, but I think it would be better for gameplay. I think giving people more choices and more things to do just makes gameplay more fun, and then you could balance around that. Like, you want your core fundamentals of the game to be fun and enjoyable, and you could solve problems down the road. I think having 3 skills would be great. I think more tool belt slots would be great. I think more weapons would be great. It's just give people the tools, the choices, and let them, figure out what's OP and what's not, and then you can balance it later on. That's just my general take.
So a long time ago, a very similar discussion, well, somewhat similar discussion, we'll say, happened on the Darkest Hour pod again this week, about being able to swap. So let's say a tangential idea to that, a third skill slot would be allow people the ability to switch perks and or skills and or spells in raid during
campfire.
Well, campfire is what they brought up, but I think what was data mined a long time ago was the sleeping bag. And if you added something like that, so in D&D it would be a long rest, right? So in a long rest, you can get spells back, and I think for some classes you can even rememorize spells. So yeah, if we're not going to get
who can use taunt for bosses, but doesn't have that dog ass ability on their bar for everything else.
Not to interrupt, but taunt actually isn't bad. I've been playing with Taunt Father.
I know
It's
just not fun.
The way.
It's not exciting. It's not exciting to use.
He plays like movement speed fighter with like kind of low PDR, but he gets that extra 10%.
That's what I like
from
to do,
taunt, and he just like runs at people, pops taunt, and is like strong for 8 seconds, and just goes to battle.
It's 10% MDR is what fighters want. It's good.
Exactly.
It's not exciting, and it's definitely it is an opportunity cost in the sense that like if you pop taunt and people disengage, it's
It's low
It doesn't
cooldown
feel
and high.
good.
It's pretty high uptime, but not to interrupt you. Please continue about your long rest and training abilities, Scott.
No. So yeah, I think your core point is that we do want opportunities for more skill expression, more things to do, especially for the melee classes that don't have a spell wheel. So there are multiple ways to skin that cat. I think adding a third skill, yeah, the balance issues would definitely be significant to deal with, but that's certainly viable. Allowing people to swap, I think one of the problems that the game has, certainly as a cleric, I feel this a lot. If I go in with the intent, like I have a quest, I need to go kill a lich 15 times, I know I'm going to take Purify. And if I want to get down there, I've got to survive potentially multiple player fights. And as a cleric, especially if I'm running res, I mean, who the hell is running Earthquake or Locust Swarm anymore? Like, you don't have room for it. You just can't afford to run it, especially if you're going to boss, you're going to run res. And then if you're bringing Purify to boot, you feel borderline worthless in a team fight, except for one spell. You get one spell to deal damage with, which is Holy Strike. That's what you've got.
I don't know about worthless in a team fight. I think that depends on what you like
from
doing
an offensive, from an offensive perspective.
From an offensive standpoint,
yeah. So if you're in a three-man comp, sure, it's no problem. But this kind of gets back. I don't want to completely revisit questing, but one of the challenges of questing when you get further down the line, it's like if you're not in a three-man comp and you don't play the right class, it's going to be a significant challenge for you to complete a lot of these quests. And I think, cleric feels that a lot, not being able to PvP very well. If you started the raid thinking, hey, I want to go kill the lich, your loadout for the cleric is set in stone, and you might get down there to Inferno and it might not even be the lich. You just spent 20 minutes getting there, and now you might have to PvP to get out, and your kit's not worthless for it. But if you're not in a 3-stack, it certainly feels really bad if you need to be the frontlining cleric. So I don't know, maybe sleeping bag, maybe campfire. You definitely don't want to give people the ability to just swap stuff out on the fly. That's a chaotic nightmare. But if you force people to sit down, and
it's kind of why it's kind of why they nerf tranquility.
Exactly.
In the first place, is like you run into this problem where like you lose sight of a team for a second, and like all of a sudden the tables have completely turned. Whereas, like a cleric, you hear them healing, you know what's going on. Everybody's kind of back to full. You know what to expect. You want at least some level of determinism or at least some kind of intel that can inform the player, that isn't just left up to guessing. So yeah, splitting off and being able to switch skills because you drop combat for 10 seconds like a fucking rogue gets back into stealth and WoW is not what we want to deal with. But I love the idea, and I've even suggested, like, maybe because we have these cool areas like the tavern, fucking Iron Mace, bring it back, please. I don't care if it's Nexons, give it to me. And like the ruin, or the little camp that we have these places where you could, realistically have vendors actually be there in your stashes, and we could put those as interim places. Like you go to the crypts and you've got the spot up there, and then right before you get to the crypts, maybe there's like one or two vendors that you could run into, and maybe one of them has a chance to be like a dude that can connect you to your stash or something. He's like a stash runner, or like a little pack rat or something that gives you access to your stash, but only a limited amount. So maybe you can deposit a couple things and grab a couple things from your inventory. Just a little more little flavor things in between that also give you the ability to like tactically approach how your take on the next dungeon, or look ahead just a little bit of foresight.
That's interesting. I'm not sure if that's the direction they want to go, but that does sound cool. It sounds cool. I've messed around with the idea previously. Like I said, maybe what if if you take a red portal into Inferno and you're like in that area where you are waiting to go down to Inferno, waiting for the match to end, if you could like deposit like an item or two, or pull something else out, or maybe you could hit the fucking vendors up or something. I thought that might be cool, but I'm like, that might also be kind of lame, because what if, to say just like a hypothetical, for instance, you're fighting a squad in Crypts. You kill one, they kill one, whatever. You get looted, but you get revived, and you're like trying to hunt that team down to get your stuff back. Because I've been in that situation.
And they stash it.
Yeah, and they stash it. I'm like, well, I just worked my ass off, coming from zero, a naked wizard with a crossbow hunting down this person, trying to get my stuff back, and they stashed it before I could kill them. I would hate that. I would hate that.
Maybe like gear that you looted from, if we were going to go down that road, which again, big if.
It could be looted stuff, not handled stuff.
Right.
That's how
Exactly.
That.
Yeah.
Which they've already set the flags for that, which makes me think there could be some precedent for that, but this is all very wishful thinking. I feel like if we really wanted to, this podcast could be 4.5 hours long, where we just sit here and talk about shit we would love to try with the game. And big props again to Iron Mace for being willing to take the dive on stuff and just test shit out. And we've said before, I would kind of like them just go nuts with it. Like, now that we're going to get the test server that was mentioned a few weeks ago, let's just go. Let's put some crazy shit on that test server. Let's see how the game feels if we just turn it upside down and do something.
Yeah, 10 spell rogue. Let's go, dude. I'm down.
He just has a machine. He just has a gun. Just give Rogue a gun.
Yeah, exactly.
He's got a silenced pistol, and that's all he goes into the raid with.
We need some more cleric spells, man, or do something to Earthquake and freaking Locust Swarm, because your spell selection's feeling really limited right now.
Locust Swarm and Earthquake both feel like they don't belong to Cleric, I'll be honest with you. I can understand if they gave them like I think they should change Earthquake to be Consecration, and it's just an AoE effect that they put on the floor that deals small amount of damage to players inside of it.
A zoning tool.
Yeah, a zoning tool. Something that makes you think twice about pushing through it, but isn't this fucking, oh, you got stuck and you died.
Yeah, you can't push through an Earthquake, but there should be something that you could do. Like Consecrated Ground is a great idea. That, okay, they can push through. It's not going to slow them down, but it will hurt them a bit. But it'll put them in it'll be risky to push through it, but it's not like a guaranteed, okay, you cannot push through this kind of thing. I think that's probably healthier for the game. But I do agree, Earthquake doesn't really feel like a Cleric spell. That feels like a Druid spell.
Exactly.
Yeah. But you could give Cleric other things. I think, to talk on Scott's point earlier about Cleric does kind of feel a little bland with the builds.
Offense.
You got, not even just offense, you can do some offense, but like Holy Light, Protection, Lesser Heal. You need these 3.
Yeah.
And you have like 2 flex slots.
Pick 2.
You should take res. You should. Some
don't. If we got 10
if you can get 22, sure. If you can get 22 memory, sure.
Yeah. What if we get more spells for Cleric and we get 10 spell Cleric back, and you get fucking you have cleanse is like almost an instant cast, and you've got to heal. Go ahead.
Sorry, but yeah, I think now that they're toning down spells, you might be able to do 10 spell Cleric again, maybe, and it not be broken, but it might still be broken. Maybe just gives clerics, I don't know, just give them 6 spells on their one book, so they can't have a second spell.
Well, do you have to give them 10? You can you can open up the second spell wheel and lock 3 of the slots. So once they release the skill trees, you open up spell wheel 2 and give the ability to earn up to maybe 3 spell slots cap, right? But so you start with your 5, and as you spec into your skill tree, you can go from 1 to 2 and max out at 3.
Put it behind a quest line too, where you get to unlock the clerical chains.
Hold on a second. Hold on a second.
Cleric, my chains are heavy. I can now cast 7 spells.
Hold on. You're cooking, and I'll tell you why. Okay. And I'm sorry, but we're making this podcast like at least 20 minutes longer now. Grab a water if you need one, because we're about to get in the fucking mix. I talked to So Bad about this a little while ago. I had an idea for when they were first announcing questing and training and stuff. He's going to get fucking water.
No, I'm just adjusting posture. I'm listening.
I put a lot of fucking thought into this on a high level. Make it to give questing something more interesting than now your vendors are good. We can also take questing to training levels where you're doing quests specifically because they help you develop the power of your character directly. And I know that kind of creates a bit of a divide where, I ran into some guy in my fucking lobby who's level 45, and he's done all the quests, and he has all these crazy abilities that are baked into his character. And now there's a power divide between the character. But there is a way to do it, I think, that doesn't explicitly give them an upper hand in PvP, but sort of lets them specialize a little bit more. And there's a couple of examples that come to mind. So I had this plan for, let's do 3 trees. 1 tree is a cute quality of life tree that you can train in, that you do quests. All of these are tied to quests and leveling. One's a quality of life tree that gives you things like you gain a slot that's only for lockpicks. And when you master the quest or you master the teacher, you've done all the quest chains, you have a 40% chance to not consume lockpicks. You gain access to a black market that has rare goods that are only available when that black market vendor is on or in the market. You get extra stash space, or you get a bag that you can carry certain things in, that when you go into a raid that takes up less slots but holds more things. Then we take two trees. One is a class specialization tree. Slayer. It's only for dual wield. You got to wear light armor. What if we have a Slayer that gets to specialize in using spears and can wear chainmail? We had chainmail. It's a really good medium armor. It's somewhere in between plate and light armor. You see a fighter with a spear and chainmail, and you're like, that's a Slayer fighter. He's going to fuck you up if you follow him into that tight corridor where spear is really good. Don't follow him. Like, you sort of get this idea of what a character's identity is, and every other level you get a point for either one of these trees. One is class identity, Slayer fighter with a spear. The other one is PvE specifically, and that tunes into what you were talking about with these like extra spells and more specialization. That doesn't necessarily have to give you something that just fucks up the other team because you have 10 spells or 7 spells now, but it's like you do a long quest line on cleric and you unlock demon slaying, so now your cleric can use holy spells against demons too. It's not just against undead, or it just works in general against evildoers. And now you can cast Holy Light on goblins, and it fucking just annihilates
rogues.
them.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, the real evil. Yes.
We're going the paladin route with Holy Shock. Don't take that away from me, okay? I want my fucking paladin in the game. Stop homogenizing the cleric into paladin. I want paladin, okay? But
It's
yeah,
coming.
just 1 point. Every other level, you get these points, and you get to start specializing in things. These things are locked behind quests. You get to kill 5 nightmare demon berserkers before you unlock demon slaying, and now your cleric can use spells against demons. And here's a couple spells that you unlock that are specifically only PvE damage. That doesn't help you in PvP fights, but if you get locked into a room with a skelly champ, you can bind it for 5 seconds and run the fuck away. And now the other team has to deal with it when they get in the room, and you're already gone. That kind of stuff, I feel like, expands class identity, gives you something to work towards. It makes you interested in doing more quests, and the more you push these mile markers up in difficulty to accomplish, the more you just generally push players. Instead of having to have an MMR system, you now have these players who only care about, I need to get level 30 and do demon slaying. They're never going to run into fucking Timmy, who's down here like, I got to kill my first 5 skeletons. That was a very long tangent.
No.
Please tell me what you
I
think.
dig it.
No, I like stuff like that. Like I said, you just have to be very careful with giving up the power divide, right? That's the big deal. So, like, if you want to specialize into the Slayer tree, for instance, like you're saying with Chainmail Spear, that sounds very cool. But I feel like you should also have to sacrifice something to do that. So, like, it's just not a sense of powering up. You are gaining power in something, losing power on something else.
No more crossbow,
I think,
but you're fast with a spear.
yeah, something. There has to be something. Long as it's not just a gain, it has to be a trade-off. But that sounds great. I think you could do that for many classes and make a lot of diverse stuff and make the game really cool. Like cleric with spells and unlocking more spell slots would be awesome. And you can do something for wizard where I could sacrifice some of my spells. Maybe I only want to play 7-spell wizard, but if I do that, maybe I can gain the arcane shield or something along those lines.
Or enhance certain
spells.
Yeah,
or enhance other spells. I'm sacrificing my 2nd spell slot, but I am a fireball master. I am a fire mage. My fire spells are mighty, but I can only fire spell. Stuff like that sounds awesome. And I think, I'm not sure if they want to go that route, but if they do, they totally could, and it would be sweet and balanced, but sweet.
What would you do with Bard, the musical men?
Bard's
if you
a mess, dude.
If you had, and I'm asking this question specifically to Scott based on what we just talked about, because I told you about this stuff a while back too, so you've definitely had time to think about this a little bit. Bard is, I feel like, a class that is really fun to play at its core. It's very active. It feels rewarding to do all this cool shit. But at the end of the day, it's like you could accomplish the same thing with a class that has 2 buttons. Of course, we did go through a period of time where Bard was just, it was better than every other class by a fucking mile. But we've now come to a point where it feels kind of bad without like really good gear. If we were to now take this specialization idea and go really honing in on certain types of things, what kind of stuff would you like to see for Bard? Because I'd love to hear from somebody who's just played a shit ton of Bard.
Yeah, I wish my Bard experience was more recent, because I have played the shit out of it, but I've just been living in my cleric's body for so long now that I'm not as in tune with it. My first thought, though, would be that for your skill trees, you could do something again akin to D&D where you have a college, you specialize in a college of music, essentially.
Give him an electric guitar. I like where we're going with this.
Right. So more instruments, yeah. So I don't know if you'd go the route where you'd say like you become very proficient in a specific instrument. Yeah, you could do, but allow them. I think if you allowed all of the songs to be played by all instruments in that when you have that set up, right? So or maybe it allows you to dip into other ones. So if you say, okay, these 5 lute songs, if you become a lute master, they're going to be increased in power, you get better playing speed, and you have the ability to grab a flute song and play it with your lute. And you have the ability to grab a drum song and play that with your lute. That would be pretty badass. But when I say more instruments that do the same thing, right? Like, so you're still like, let's say I'll throw everything I just said out the window. Even if you just said the flute and pick a whistle, a flute and a whistle, just derivative instruments from the existing ones that just sound a little bit different would be really cool. And then maybe those have their own little special perks. So like a whistle might have increased bonus against undead when you're playing the shriek or something like that, right? Like there are cool little derivative things I think they could spin off for the bard. There's so much, like the bard may have the most potential of any class save for wizard for the amount of things that you can do to make it really, really cool.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's
I played a little bit of bard, not much. I got leveled up to 20 and stuff, and use them as my ult. I don't play much anymore these days because, I value my sanity. But I think the biggest problem with bard is it's just like their gameplay loop is very repetitive, and in a sense where it's not like they're doing anything with the repetitiveness. Like they're just constantly buffing team, buffing self, buffing team, and then basically playing a melee class with a crossbow. It's just basically you're a weaker fighter with extra steps, and like a lot of your utility songs aren't like as. I would rather their utility songs be stronger and their buff songs be less mandatory. And I think they need some kind of quality of life change. I think it's miserable just having to juggle through 4 instruments to play certain songs, and it's micromanaging, annoying bullshit that I'm not sure how they could fix it. Maybe like you were saying, you could play all songs on any instrument, but maybe they're more powerful in other instruments. So like if you wanted to, you can go into raid with 1 or 2 instruments, still play all the songs you want to play. But since I have a lute out, my alacrity is not going to be as strong as if I had the drum out or something.
Yep, exactly.
I'm not. Maybe that's something they can go down.
Something tells me that the inevitable outcome of that is just that everybody plays with you only have to have 1 instrument to play everything, because the amount of effort to juggle through the instruments to play all your different songs, I got to press 3 twice, and then I got to E up, and then press 3 again, then Q, and then 4 once, and then I gotta play this, and then someone's on top of me, I gotta get back, and then I'm playing this song, guys, you get to get back here, and I'm arranging my song. It's, if you could just, I play 1 song, I play another song, I play another song, I play another song, I play another song, and we're going. And those buffs lasted for 2 minutes. That's the only thing anyone would ever do. And I personally felt from the day that Bard was introduced and the first time I tried it, I was like, this class just fundamentally doesn't work, and it needs to be redone. Like they just need to do something different.
That's kind of my feel. Like I said, it's cool, and if you're good at it, it's very rewarding. But to like your average player that wants to play a Bard, the juice ain't worth the squeeze, in my opinion.
It needs
to. What do you think
about
a spell weaving mechanic where if you had 2 bards in a group where if they sync up their playing on 2 different instruments, it would increase the power to
get
the band together. I want karaoke bard too. So in addition to playing, if you're voiping and singing the right notes along with your instrument.
I've been saying that for Wizard. This is an awful idea, but I've said it a couple times. If I wanted to cast a spell, I would have to like VoIP a chant or something that cast my incantation.
Yes.
And someone would hear fucking some dork behind him say, "Fireball!"
Rogue just throws a fucking knife at you. Shut the fuck up, idiot! What are you talking about, there, nerd?
hits me at the cut throw. I'm gonna turn that VoIP off. I just can't.
So after this, what we're doing is we're going into the crypts. We're going to clear out vault, and then all three of us are going to stand on top of the golden chest with our loots out and just start playing songs for everybody, because that's how we're going to buff up the whole lobby.
Yeah, I'll use the cowbell, but you guys to do all the hard work.
Okay,
More
okay.
cowbell.
Yeah.
Yes.
Doing a little Will Ferrell for us. I get it.
But yeah, I think Bard has to be like. I think it needs a rework. I really do. I
I
think.
agree.
I think it is a miserable class to play and play against. I don't know.
When it's good, it has the problem that I posed as Wizard having last week. When it's good, it's too good, and when it's not good, it fucking sucks and nobody wants to play it, except the literal best. And touching a little bit on Wizard, just because I feel like it.
Sure, kick me while I'm down. Yeah, sure.
Well, because you've been forced to play cleric now.
Yeah,
all of your friends play Wizard.
Wizard's too strong. I can't possibly play it. It's too strong. I'm too ethical. I only play it when it's weak.
I know the feeling. It is very fun to play, and I think it's a class that, to me, Wizard is, and I said this last week, that it's the focal point of the game, because when it's played perfectly, it feels like there's nothing you can do with it. And they're just untouchable, and they fucking ruin your life. And if you make one mistake, you're probably dead. Sometimes not, but probably. I feel like Wizard in that sense is fundamentally broken, but also kind of sick. And I almost feel like we want to maybe go that route. And it almost does feel kind of appropriate for a D&D world where each class, when played fucking perfect, is just disgusting and untouchable. But if you make mistakes, you just get punished really hard for them.
Yeah, I said this something similar like this for a while. I'm like, Wizard has a very high floor, and an even higher ceiling.
Yep.
Which, if you're good at Wizard, you can do some crazy stuff and make some sick plays, and it's awesome.
It feels unfair
but yeah, it looks OP. It looks OP, and it might be OP, but it looks OP. And people are always like, nerf Wizard, nerf Wizard, nerf Wizard. I'm like, sure, we could nerf Wizard, right? But I think what we should do is try to make all of these other classes more like Wizard, in the sense that they have lots of things to do, and they have skill expression, they have tools for any situation. So if they're smart and they think quickly and they have X, Y, and Z problem in front of them, if they can come up with X, Y, and Z solution, they could outplay people. I think that is important.
Make caltrops an item that rogues can throw. Give fighters a third weapon slot and give them utility belts. Give Barb, I don't know, something, a javelin. Give them a shield.
Well, Barb is the hardest one, because like I want Barb to have a skill expression, so they're not just so reliant on being a fucking dumb meaty stat stick.
Yeah,
and
that just stat checks you. Yeah.
You could tone down their stats if they had skill expression. Again, that wouldn't be a problem. They wouldn't have like the fucking past barbarian summer that we just had, where just shirtless barbarians running people down.
It was hot barbarian summer for a minute there.
That was rough.
I love this. Go give cleric more PvE utility to really turn the tides by fucking just manipulating PvE against their opponents, like really, or even make that kind of warlock specialty. But I just like the idea of expanding the toolkits and making each class have more interesting things to do that aren't necessarily aggravating to deal with, but are like, damn, he just fucking, I saw him hot swap the caltrops, and then he double jumped over my team and he pieced the fuck out, and then he set up traps on the outside corners, and they're not ankle traps like fucking hunt. I know you're about to spill over with rage.
That's cool, because like if a rogue fucking breaks my ankles and outplays me like that, I'm like, all right, that guy outplayed me. That's great. But what I don't like is just getting one shot of stealth. That doesn't feel like I got outplayed.
No, it's stupid.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like sometimes when I fight a wizard and I'm like, all right, that wizard just fucking outplayed me for some reason. I'm like, all right, I know I probably could have X, Y, Z different, but that guy just outplayed me. All right. But there are probably things I could have done. But the way it is right now, rogue is just one shot somebody at a stealth, or they get caught and they complain about something.
They get caught or they complain about something.
Yeah.
Isn't that the dark and darker experience that we're at right now? But listen, we've talked a lot about what Iron Mace can do to change the game. But again, I just want to reiterate that they've done an absolutely phenomenal job of the game, and there's a reason that all of us are sitting here hours on end talking about it in podcasts every week, and we're playing the game every goddamn day. This is the most obsessed I've ever been with the game since Halo. Yeah. Well, I would say since Halo 2, but World of Warcraft came after that. But they're doing something right, and I just want them to implement more on it. And to circle back to where we started on all of this, Take that test server and just crank the knobs up. Let's go crazy with some shit. Let's just see what happens if we try all kinds of new shit.
I'm excited for sure.
I love it. Well, we're an hour and 37 minutes in already, boys. Should we start doing some Q&A?
Let's do it.
Sure.
Fire them off.
All right.
Let's see you
All
in
right,
chat.
chat. Had some good comments that have been on hold here. Phil in the chat over here said when we were talking about sub bosses, he just mentioned one easy thing they could do is add some variants. So we could have a Skelly champ that's wielding an axe or a spear instead of a sword, right? Yeah, I know it's scary, but hey, there are little things they could do like that.
I mean, that sounds. I mean, that sounds miserable, but like sounds like it should be part of the necessary misery.
So bad.
Yeah,
stance
I would like that.
Or a wraith. Go ahead.
As a leading figure of the community, so bad streamed, I'm saying, please don't put fucking axe skeleton champion in the game. I will find you.
A wraith that can cast magic missile.
Yeah, point of discussion actually. How do we feel about like them slowly like removing the cheese spots in the game and making it more organic? I think it's good. Yeah,
it's good.
I think it's good. I think
it's forcing me to learn how to dodge stuff.
Exactly, it feels great and also miserable, but that's the point.
Some things need to be improved a little bit because there's definitely like a clear design around, like if you play a rogue, everything is trivial in PvE because you're just so fast that it doesn't matter.
I've been playing runes on rogue solo. It took me probably
take a rapier, please, for the love of God.
It probably took me 150 raids to get level 20 because I'm not killing shit because I don't have to. I could just skip the game. It's fucking ridiculous.
Yep.
It's I don't know. They have to do something about that. But also they shouldn't because I play rogue now.
But to the point of designing PvE difficulty, there's a lot of really inconsistent things. I think, like, shields feel really weird against PvE mobs, especially now that, like, okay, so buckler interrupts combos except against centaur.
No, it does.
Oh, it does now?
Oh, okay. It does, yeah.
Okay. Buckler is kind of godlike. It's sort of like cheat codes. If you haven't been using a buckler in your class, like you use a buckler, use the fucking buckler. It's gross. But it feels like, I think like buckler is the pinnacle of design for PvE, because if you get good at dealing with PvE with a buckler, you're on the winning track at all times. But a class like, okay, Barb feels like shit to fight most PvE like sub bosses and stuff. I've seen Jay do it and he's really good at dodging like centaur and stuff. I've had trouble with it. I've definitely done my fair share of clearing it, and it feels really rewarding to get good at it. But you sort of have this moment where, like, all right, I'm a battle axe Barb. There's no cheese spots anymore. I walked into this module. I'm kind of just fucked because I don't have gear.
Yeah, Barb has nothing.
This thing fast enough.
Yeah, Barb has no tools. Like, that's back to the point of not having skill expression.
They have the scream, right? They have the
doesn't work on
stuff
doesn't work on sub bosses.
Yeah, it only works on small mobs.
Yeah.
Like, if you're a barbarian without a cheese spot, what are you doing against a centaur if you don't have enough movement speed to do the mechanic? Because some classes just don't have enough movement speed to dodge some of these attacks. Like, when I play plate cleric, I can like dodge centaur and demon berserker on like wizard and rogue because I'm fast enough. But on cleric with 250 movement speed, you can't.
If you don't have a buckler, you're not fighting that.
If you don't have a buckler, you're dying.
You're cheesing it, or you're not. And now that they've taken away most of those cheese spots, it's like, okay, you've got your two little cornerstones in the north room to deal with the triple elites, because they've now changed the bridge to a staircase and they've given the ramps out of the bottom, so you can't cheese them down there anymore.
I love the fact that they just do this stuff and they don't even put them in the fucking patch notes. You just load in, you just go to a normal cheese spot and you just get fucking hammered.
The first time you opened up that ledge for the raid, and it's like, oh shit, we all have to run.
Yes.
That's great. The sleeper patches, I love it.
Yep.
I think they've done that with so many things now that when it happens, we like almost collectively forget about certain things. Like, I swear there's been changes that have happened that I'm like, this wasn't always like this, was it? I could swear that this thing used to work this way differently, or like this weapon's animation is slightly different, or
you hit a wall spike. I feel like, was this wall spike always here? Am I crazy?
They put that in right now.
Right now, I saw me being bad. It's Iron Mage, right?
That's me earlier with my stream. I played like absolute shit for 2 hours. I was like, guys, it's the first time back streaming in like 2 years. This is your fault, not mine.
Yeah. That's funny, dude. I do like. I kind of like the sleeper patch. I kind of wish they would say not maybe some things, but say less in the patch notes, and just like throw different chests in, or just reorganize things, or just move mobs around without saying it. I don't. I think it'd be a very low effort from Iron Mace, but a very high dungeon immersion
They
like
could take
effect.
the FromSoft logical extreme and make everything really obfuscated and just make you figure shit out. But
Mhm.
I do think for balance purposes, at least between the classes, they don't want to do that. But I'm down for them. Just like, oh,
Yeah.
hey, remember the triple man bat room that no human being in their entire life has ever full cleared? We put another bat in there. You can't get away from this one. You can't cheese this one. It's on the ground level. Fuck you.
Yeah.
We did
I
talk about it
agree.
earlier, but Chow was asking, like, what do people think about being locked into one class for questing? I know we were talking about it, but I don't think we
Hate it.
really extrapolated on it.
Hate
And
it.
I think I'm not really sure what you would do. Would just make questing account wide? Is that like the solution?
Yeah.
Is
And
there
I
any
think,
problem with that?
well, so they're trying to obviously influence people to go and explore all of the content, right? They want you to go to goblin caves. They want you to go explore the maps. What if there was some incentive to not only explore the maps, but explore other classes so that you had to play at least one other class or two other classes for a little bit, not a lot. I know a lot of people are probably like people just play one class only. They don't play multiple characters. I get it. But maybe it's some not a main quest line, like it's kind of more of an optional one, lesser prio, where you would be at least somewhat incentivized to pick up a bard to go do a quest that only a bard can really pull off. What do you guys think about that idea? And that would give
Are
me
we
a little bit
talking
more.
like? Are we talking like we're gonna make the account the quest account wide, but
Yes.
you have to play these classes because only this class can do this? Or are we
Yeah,
talking
so
like
certain
Exactly.
class specific quests, maybe. Yeah,
Yes.
maybe.
I like the
Yes.
class specific quest idea from the
But it
standpoint of,
adds
and
to
this
your
is
whole account.
obviously well,
So if I
this is
complete
obvious.
this quest with the bard, it would benefit my other character too, is
Hmm.
what I'm saying, if you made it account wide.
Obviously this is biased from what I was talking about like 20 minutes ago, but I prefer if we're going to do class based stuff to make it specific to reward that class so that you feel more invested in a class that you're playing in, because I feel like people generally will play every class, but there's a few classes that they feel more at home with and that they really like. And I think having rewards that give you an incentive to play the classes that you like more than the other classes is a good thing. I do kind of like the idea of doing like having multiple classes give rewards, but I more like that in the idea that and this is no shade to solo players, but I do like that more in the idea of like, well, let's get a bard in our party because we need a bard to unlock this door because it's a musically enchanted door
Right.
in the
Right.
crypts that only opens if you have a bard.
Yep.
I like that kind of stuff. That adds a little bit of flavor to the game, and I don't think
Mhm.
that really does anything negative.
Agreed.
Yeah, that'd be cool. And then, like, if quests were account wide, like for instance, like one of the biggest problems with the Goblin Cave quest for me is I just don't want to go into Goblin Caves as a wizard, man, into that rogue infested pit of despair as a
Fucking
70
hate
HP
Goblin's
frail old
Caves.
man. But if I could like go do my quest, the quest for my whole account on my big juicy barbarian and maybe fucking clap a couple rogues with my stick while I'm down there, like that. I mean, it sounds more appealing because I would do the quest much more proactively. But like, I just don't want to go into the rogues den with my robe on. You know,
Right.
that's just asking for trouble.
But let me tack a butt onto that with the upcoming change, which was slated for this week originally, but now it's been pushed back since they moved offices. Sounds like we're going to get map size or party sizes changing on the maps in the near future. Does that change your perspective? If Goblin Caves is now going to be duos or trios, we don't know how they're going to do that yet. I hope they do that on a rotation. But if Goblin Caves is now a trios map, does that change your opinion, Nate?
Um, less so, but it's still like the problem with ruins, right? Like, I don't like playing wizard on ruins because it's the same thing. A lot of rogues, a lot of rangers, and it's like not that wizard is a bad class, but it feels substantially weaker on ruins where there are 12 out of 15 rogue players.
And there's so
But
many
if
open
you go
sight
to a
lines and
three,
stuff.
if you go to a 3 stack on ruins, so if ruins becomes a 3 for a day or 4 hours, however they're going to do
Well,
that,
that because they was way
then
better than all of a sudden. I
yeah,
think anyway.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think Goblins Caves can support duos and trios, to be honest with you. I don't even like it in solos. I think it's a dog shit map and they should completely rework it. No offense to Iron Mace. I fucking hate Goblin Caves.
Yeah, I would rather they just have a solo Crypts version where they tune down some of the bosses.
Make it like 25% smaller, just literally shrink the modules or something, or get rid of a couple of the modules.
It could be a 2x2 or a 3x3 instead of a 5x5.
Make it even lopsided. I don't care, as long as they can figure out a way to link it. I don't give a shit. I just hate Goblin Caves. I know some people like Goblin Caves, and I'm doing a fucking terrible.
Dude, it is their right to just be wrong. They're allowed to be wrong. In like
yes.
So bad has been wrong before. I mean, I've been wrong before. I'm being a terrible so bad impression here because the man is 75% goblin grease from the ground up. I mean, fundamentally. I just hate the fact that there's multiple layers, and like I was playing in Goblin Caves earlier. I know this is a tangent again, very very bad habit of mine, but I was in a module and I was looking at the zone and I was like, I know that I am going to die here if I guess wrong because my bard has slow ass magic hands, and I have a 50-50 chance of this escape portal spawning upstairs or spawning right where I'm standing, and I have to stay right here to see if it's going to spawn there. But if it spawns upstairs, I'm dead. And there's no control over that. It's just a 50-50. It doesn't feel good.
Right.
That's a separate gripe, but I don't know. I'm really excited for solo crypts because I love the crypts. I like ruins a lot. I think trios on ruins would be a lot of fun, but I'd like to see them go. We talked about 4v4v4v4 on ruins, or even like fucking 9v9 on ruins would be sick. I think the game probably isn't built to designed to support that kind of stuff, but
the weekend Ruin Rumble, let's go, baby.
Hell yeah. Give me Warsong Gulch on ruins. Let's make a fucking capture the flag on ruins.
Wait a second. You're getting me a little excited. Yeah. I love capture the flag, dude.
Let's do some fucking CTF. All those plate fighters got a reason to exist now. They're not just a fucking target.
No, you got double jump rogue flag carriers, okay?
They can't double jump while they have the flag.
Okay, there we go. All right, give it to the fighter then. He's holding it down.
The chest jump stays in though. You can open the chest and have somebody fling you up. That's you get to keep that in.
That sounds really fun, actually. Holy.
So Phil in the chat says they should give Sobad a goblin player skin. I think that should be.
He should have an exclusive skin.
It's just a goblin with sunglasses.
Yes.
You know what's actually surprising to me is that there's no client-side mods yet. I'm surprised people haven't given themselves like client-side skins or some kind of like UI modifications. I don't know what UE5 and what sort of lockdowns Iron Mace has, but I'm surprised that kind of shit isn't in the game yet. I could totally see a little goblin portrait for Sobad in the corner.
Oh, you can do that with overlays. Racked Focus does that with his stuff.
Yeah.
Alex, he's got a couple cool overlays, but yeah, your point's well taken. I haven't seen anything like that. Because people do that in Rocket League all the time, right? Like, what's it called? Bacchus mod.
Yeah. Can you ban the guy that just said goblin jiggle physics, please?
Nah, dude, that guy's VIP.
he's spitting.
Some cook, Nah, but that's great. Well, we're going 2 hours now, almost 1 hour 40.
Yeah, we're getting up.
I know
there.
You're chomping at the bit to get back into the dungeon, brother. We're holding you up.
Honestly, I'm just hungry. I'll be real.
I actually am starving. I haven't eaten since noon. I was gonna say let's jump in since we're finishing the podcast, and I'm now taking over so bad. We should jump into some shitty Norms trios, but I got to take a break and eat. I'm so hungry.
Oh, good. Well, after you guys eat, if I'm still awake and you see me on there, hit me up. I'll run a few.
Hey, Chow Zarky in chat. Your chat's my chat now because all the people that would be watching me are watching both of you. So shout out to the guy over here said he could listen for 2 more hours. I mean, that's one person that said that, so obviously we have to go for 2 more hours.
Oh yeah.
Order your fucking Chipotle and suck it up, Buttercup. We're podcasting for 5 hours.
I live in the fucking boonies. I don't get delivery up here. I live in the woods, man. I need the Amazon drones.
You were just telling me about your fucking your emotional support cheesesteak the other day.
Yeah, because I buy them ahead of time and I put them in the fridge.
Okay.
That's
actually smart thinking. I can go for a cheesesteak right now. I might order one actually. I'm in Austin, Texas. I get that shit on my doorstep in 20 minutes. Not that I don't need it. I got to do some push-ups actually.
Well, I think that is a good of a place of any to end it. Thank you for covering for so bad. Yeah, we end on the cheesesteaks, but
it all begins and ends.
All begins and ends. But thank you, Odin, for filling in for so bad. It was honestly a little refreshing not having so bad here. Hope you're listening.
Don't hurt him too bad while he's sipping Mai Tais with fucking
Jeez.
wine.
No, I love you so bad.
He's
He knows
tears right now. I'm sure he's real torn up about it.
It comes from a place of love. While he's sitting on the beach drinking his pina colada in Hawaii.
Right.
Yeah.
That poor guy really missing out.
No doubt.
It's a
Anyway.
pleasure to be here again, and I'll invite myself again next time. Don't worry.
Yeah, for sure.
So this vacation wasn't incidental. I know where you are so bad.
Oh yeah, dude.
That's episode 14. Thanks everybody in the chat for tuning in. We will see you guys planned next Thursday around the same bat time, same bat channels, unless Hotfix 25 comes out and we get all kinds of new chaos. We'll see. We may go day early and day late. We'll see how it goes, but planned for next Thursday. Thanks again for tuning in, guys. Have a good one.
Peace.
See ya.
See ya.